Welcome to Ballet Bites, where we serve up daily 10-minute deep dives into all things ballet and beyond. And today we're unpacking some fiery questions that Ballerina Farm's presence raises.
I mean, did your feed go crazy last night with sourdough, baby goats, and flawless penchés on a tractor? It's absolutely wild.
Exactly. We're talking about Hannah Neeleman, former Juilliard dancer turned homestead sensation, and her empire that mixes family farm aesthetics with ballet discipline.
Yes, and it really gets you thinking. Let's dive into that first question. Does the Tradwife aesthetic, with its soft focus femininity and, domestic vibes, actually distort public perception of modern ballet's gender dynamics?
Absolutely. Ballet already struggles with stereotypes like obedient ballerinas obediently bowing to male choreographers. And when Hannah, with baby on the hip and a loaf of sourdough in hand, markets this domestic grace, it, reinforces that image.
But isn't it interesting that at the same time she's like deadlifting hay bales before dawn? That mix of strength and submission really, mirrors ballet's own tension between power and delicacy.
It is, and it creates this, beautifully complicated dynamic. On one hand, traditional femininity. On the other, brute strength that challenges the stereotype.
Yeah,
Yet it can send mixed signals, especially for young dancers.
right. Young dancers might start thinking, hey, success means perfect arabesques and, perfect family life simultaneously. And that's a, nearly impossible standard.
Exactly. That brings us to our second question. How should early career dancers navigate influencer culture when ballet credibility starts bleeding into unrelated lifestyle branding?
Oh, for sure. Hannah's got this massive following of 20 million. And she's not just selling dance classes. She's selling meat boxes, protein powder, farmhouse chic aprons, everything. Forbes even reported that her e-commerce lanes can bring in up to $8 million a year.
Right, and that sort of branding, while lucrative, can risk diluting one's artistic identity if dancers aren't careful.
Exactly. You don't want your core ballet technique to get lost in a sea of sponsored products. Like, say, you're a choreographer only to end up pushing, lifestyle gear that isn't related to your craft.
And managers, listen up. Sponsorship contracts can clash with rehearsal time, so it's essential to, guard your artistic brand and stick to extensions that are true to your expertise.
Yeah, I do wonder though. Certainly, there's value in branching out to, say, a Pilates teacher selling stretch bands. But what if too many influencers try to mimic that style? Might that dilute the art further?
That's a fair critique. It's like if every dancer starts chasing viral trends at the expense of their craft, the very essence of ballet could be sidelined. We need to keep the artistry intact while exploring creative revenue streams.
Totally. Now, moving on to question 3. What does success really look like when there's generational wealth in the wings?
So, the Los Angeles Times reported that the Neeleman family's net worth is around $400 million, mostly from airline stakes. This kind of financial safety net lets the farm experiment without the constant fear of bankruptcy.
But that's a double-edged sword, right? Because dancers without that kind of backing might feel like they're failing if they can't afford those photo-ready barns or nationwide shipping for their merchandise.
Yep, exactly. Success really should be measured by artistry, sustainable income, and impact on the community, rather than just aesthetics or flashy drone shots of sprawling acreage.
And transparency is key. When influencers acknowledge their privileges, it helps set realistic expectations for young dancers. It's all about demystifying the path to success.
Right on. And that brings us smoothly to our fourth question. Does cross-industry entrepreneurship help or sometimes hurt ballet's cultural cachet?
Well, on one hand, it can really widen the appeal. I mean, if a steak-loving dad discovers ballet because of Hannah's plie while plowing reel, you're reaching entirely new audiences.
Yeah, it's like expanding the pie. More ticket buyers, more exposure, and if done right, a broader appreciation for the art form.
Exactly. But then, there's the risk. If ballet becomes reduced to just an aesthetic backdrop, like vintage lace in a kitchen shoot, doesn't it run the risk of being stripped of its context and, rigor?
It sure does. The fine balance is using the spotlight to show the beauty of ballet, while reminding viewers that behind those elegant movements lies Decades of discipline, sweat, and study.
And maybe even inviting those new fans to an open company class to, see where those clean lines actually come from.
Precisely. Real artistry holds its own weight whether showcased on a farmyard or in a grand theater.
So just to quickly run through our pulse points. First, the Tradwife optics really complicate ballet's gender narrative by intertwining domestic aesthetics with artistic discipline.
Yes, it reinforces old stereotypes even while it presents a modern twist.
Second, early career dancers need to guard their brand carefully amid influencer culture. The risk is diluting their credibility by stepping too far from their craft.
Right? Third, generational wealth throws up a new benchmark for success, making it vital to redefine success in terms of artistry and sustainable practice rather than just visual glamour.
And fourth, cross-industry entrepreneurship can both broaden ballet's appeal and, if mismanaged, erode its cultural depth and rigor.
Exactly. These questions weave a complex tapestry from farmyard eccentricity to the bar's disciplined elegance, and they really make you think. Should ballet evolve beyond its traditional confines, or must it hold steadfast to historical, methodological roots?
I gotta say though, while I see the merit in blending modern entrepreneurial energy with classical art, one must also be wary of losing the rich cultural texture that makes ballet unique.
Agreed. There needs to be a thoughtful integration, not a complete overhaul that leaves out the rigorous history and technique at the core of ballet.
Yeah, it's like mixing a new ingredient into a centuries-old recipe. You have to balance the flavors carefully, so the original doesn't vanish.
Right? And speaking of recipes, isn't it fascinating how Hannah's entire setup is like a experimental kitchen set up in a barn? You get domestic vibes mixing with high-level athleticism and art.
Absolutely. It's a mashup that challenges our expectations. And even if it risks sending mixed signals, it undeniably spurs innovative thought in the ballet community.
Exactly. It's a conversation starter, a way to both critique and celebrate the evolution of ballet in a modern, interconnected world.
So, our listeners, where do you land on this? Does the rough and tumble charm of Ballerina Farm inspire you? Or does the juxtaposition of domestic aesthetics with high art raise some red flags?
We'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment, share an opinion, and maybe even try out one of those encore meat boxes if you're feeling adventurous.
Indeed. And don't forget, tomorrow's deep dive will explore point shoe sustainability. So set your alarms and keep those conversations buzzing.
Till next time, remember, from farmyard to bar, keep the art and the passion alive.
Like, subscribe, and keep dancing to your own beat, folks.